Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. We are back. We are back with another episode of Rants and Raves. Welcome back to the inn. Welcome back to the inn. Before we get into our video, a couple announcements, as always. Down in the description box, down there, somewhere, you'll find 3 links. The first link is to Death Touch's Corner. If you want anything having to do with World of Warcraft content and or hardcore WoW content, check out Death Touch's Corner. He does all that old school hardcore shit. PvP stuff, you name it, that's the place to be. The second link is to Miss Truey. Truey is a good friend of mine. We keep in touch regularly on Discord. If you're looking at getting into streaming, go check out her channel. She covers everything from YouTube to OBS Studios to everything. Okay, so if you're looking at getting into streaming for any other purposes other than fun, or even if it is for fun, go check out her channel. There's all kinds of stuff for you there. And the third link is for Nice. Now, I don't know Nice personally, unfortunately. However, I have grown since starting in Season 2 vastly due to a lot of this man's videos. There's a lot of good coaches out there, you know, RTO, SRO, Glacier, Hashinshin, obviously, you know, there's lots of content creators as far as League of Legends is concerned. But Nice is one of, if not the guy, at least in my opinion, to go to. So his channel covers everything of League of Legends. Go check it out. Go watch the reviews. Go watch the gameplays. Everything you need to know about League of Legends is there. So, now with that out of the way, what do we do at an inn? We grab us a drink. Oh, Sprite. Oh, on a hot day. Mwah. Grab your smokes, grab your drinks. We're going to check out why women are overly dependent on men. How they're overly dependent on men, rather. Today's video, we have Mr. Rollo with us. Rollo, I love this guy's content, I have to say. You know, we go over a lot of Richard Cooper's Entrepreneurs in Cars. We go over a lot of Fresh and Fit. Of course, Rollo here with Rational Male. There's lots of Red Pill content out there for you guys to consume. But today's video, we'll be going over specifically women being dependent on men and why. Why is the important part. So without further ado, let's begin.
This guy and this girl who were on the street, and I think it was like a closed circuit TV camera. I don't even think it was like a cell phone cam. And the guy meets some other dude on the street and just like floors the guy, puts him to sleep. And the girl's like there and she's asleep. She doesn't call an ambulance. She doesn't help him up. The guy is like out cold. The other dude, the guy who was the assailant, he takes off, right? And she's there and she just walks away, walks off, right? And you probably are going to, you probably remember when I don't think I showed the video. I have to be careful again in showing stuff like that. But like the one video, it's famous now. I think it was 2018 or 2019 where the guy was in the club in the foyer. And yes, you sent it to me. I do have it. I'm just not going to put it on the show. But the guy's in the foyer or the lobby area of this club. And these couple are fighting. The guy turns into a white knight, gets up off the seat, the waiting room seat, tries to split him up, and the boyfriend guns him down right there, cold blood, dead. And you know what? Girl walks out the club with him, goes right with him. So that's the reality of the situation, right? Women will escalate, and Torsia will probably back me up on this because I know, yeah, it's anger management. Thank you for looking that up, by the way, my beautiful magician's assistant. That's she'll back me up on this. She's a bartender, right? If you work in wine and spirits for any length of time, you're going to see this live and in person. And I knew this long before, you know, social media started like making it unignorable. But you can see this every single day. So the more dangerous message here is not don't learn Krav Maga, which I don't think is what he's saying. It's just like don't be overly dependent on that. Don't think that that is your ticket out of a hostile, violent situation. Because as any woman, hell, as any guy will tell you, The dude who's going to win the fight is the guy who's crazy enough to win it. The guy who wants to beat your ass because he's got nothing left to lose.
Facts.
That's the guy who's insane. The guy who's high on, well, God knows what. The guy who's, 3 beers in. That guy likes to fight guy, right? That guy. When people drink, and I'm sure anybody who works in wine and spirits knows this, there's like different kinds of drunks, right? There's the guy who's the happy drunk. There's the guy who's the mouthy drunk, who's like, verbal diarrhea kind of thing. And then there's likes to fight guy. There's belligerent drunk. When you run into belligerent drunk, ladies, I don't care what super sport you better have a gun, basically. You better have some sort of firearm on you at that time. Because that's probably the only way you're going to end that engagement, especially if that guy's like hammered and doesn't know any different.
Right.
It's body weight. It's physical aggression. How do I know that? Well, I'm about to show you, because as if you didn't need any more proof than just the sporting proof, reality meets ideology. Okay, well, here we go.
Before we start, actually, I had this very conversation with a female last night who I was talking to. There is a innate difference between men and women, whether you like it or not. Okay? Men need women in a different kind of way, but men still need women. Okay? Or at least for the purposes of family. Okay? Now, men, of course, I mean women too, kind of. But men can go about their life without a woman. Jerk off, cook, clean, make their fucking cave and be okay. Women, on the other hand, are not so lucky. Women, on the other hand, very much need men, at the very least for physical protection, because, like it or not, there are dangerous men out there. And, of course, there's dangerous women, but women don't pose a threat to men in safety in the same way that men pose safety to women. Okay.
Let's for the more rational minded of you, for the more literal minded of you, let's look at some stats, some empirical data. What the hell is this, Rolo? Well, let me tell you. Let me give you a bit of information. Now, it's kind of small. Every time I do an overlay, it gets really small. So I'm going to read this to you myself. Okay. This is what was this? This is from Human in Nature. It was a 2012 study. Okay, table 1, sex differences that suggest male design for combat in humans. Okay, men were selected for combat. Understand? Here we go. This is why male humans have greater upper body strength. Ooh. Okay, and then it lists the references and where they're getting the data from here. Okay, by the way, the oldest data set on this list is 1953. Right. We have known this for a very long time. What's the other one? 1995, 97, 1970, 1975. This is not novel information, okay? Greater upper body strength, taller bodies, heavier bodies, higher basal metabolic rates, faster reaction times. Keep that in mind. Put a footnote in that. We're going to come back to faster reaction times later in this show. Thicker bones in the jaw so you can take one to the chin. Yep. Faster mental rotation of spatial visualization. More accurate throwing. In fact, oddly enough, human babies that are male know how to throw an object innately better than a female child does, because that's what their brains are wired for. Target acquisition and target firing, throw this rock at that critter. Okay. And now let me just stop right there really quickly, because I know what's going to happen, because people are going to say, well, Rolo, don't you think that the girls' little league baseball, that girls can be really great pitchers? Yes, they can, if they're taught, if they have a natural affinity for it, but they do not have the same proclivity, the innate, natural, evolved proclivity for throwing an object with force, putting your shoulder into it. Jen and I just talked about it a minute ago, right? How to throw a punch by putting your shoulder into it. That's why we say, you throw like a girl, right? You throw with your elbow instead of like throwing over, right? Oh my God. Human male babies do this innately. That's a natural innate proclivity in human males. Yep. That's an evolved difference, a sexual gendered difference between boys and girls. So keep that in head. So we had let me put this back up again. We had faster reaction times, thicker bones in the jaw, faster mental rotation of spatial visualization. By the way, that goes back again to throwing an object accurately, more accurate throwing, more accurate blocking of thrown objects. More interest in the practice of combat skills, stronger bones, greater bone density, specifically in the arms, easier heat dissipation, more hemoglobin in the blood, higher muscle to fat ratio, larger hearts, higher systolic blood pressure, broader shoulders enabling efficient weapon use, larger sweat capacity, larger circulating blood volume, greater resistance to dehydration, tolerance for risk and dangerous activities. Yet again, put a thumbnail, put your bookmark right in that one too, because we'll come back to that. Faster sensory frame shifting. Keep that in mind too. Thicker skin. And I don't mean that figuratively. I mean that literally. Larger lung capacity and greater use of physical and homicidal aggression. The most important part of that list at the very end there. Keep that in mind, because that's where we're going with this today. This is all of these well researched since 1953 all the way up to 2012. Now, you can learn Krav Maga. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You can learn, I don't know. I hate to talk about martial arts because whenever anybody says, well, what martial arts do you practice? It's Kali, right? But like when people ask me, well, I never get into, it's like, can Superman beat up Tarzan? It's like, I don't come at me and say, well, if you learned Aikido, then a girl could, doesn't matter in this, that's not the point of this whole screed here. Okay. The fact is that we're teaching girls this false sense of security. You need to be careful. You need a man to defend you. That's half the time when you see these videos where the girl's slapping the guy and the guy pushes them off, 10 guys pile in. That's the reliance. They're relying on the fact that there's going to be a guy there who's going to pick up the slack for them. Or you see a girl who gets like just cold cocked on the New York subway, just like she was saying, right? You see that girl who just takes one, right? And you're like, what's the first thing in your mind? What's the first thing any woman will say when she sees violence towards a woman and nothing happens? What's the first thing? Oh, how come she doesn't know Krav Maga? I guess she didn't train hard enough.
Nope.
I guess she doesn't know what she's doing. No, the first thing we say is, where are the guys? Where's the dude? How come these men don't know that it's their chivalrous, masculine, honor-bound duty to protect their woman? Why isn't that? Why is that the go-to when we see something like that? I remember seeing, I forget what, I think it was probably like 2017. Somebody showed me this video and it might've been Canada. I don't know, but there was like a moose or an elk or something like that in a park somewhere. And it was attacking this young lady who was in the park, and there's guys there and they just watched this shit happen. And they're just going down live in real time. And of course, the first thing out of anybody's mouth is, how come those guys aren't going to help that lady from being attacked by an elk or a moose or caribou or whatever the hell it was? That was the point. That was the whole, like, people just lose their minds and they get indignant because guys didn't want to put themselves between the girl and like sharp antlers or whatever it was, a ferocious animal. And that's the operative that we're going to get into in the next half of this show today. Okay. Ladies, there's a reason why you look for dominant men. There's a reason why you look for a guy who's taller than you, broader than you, has the chiseled jawline, like we were saying, like take it to the chin. There's a reason. Those are evolutionary reasons why you are dependent on a man. You're dependent on them for your security. You could say, well, I got a gun. Great, you got a gun. That doesn't erase 100,000, 200,000 years of evolution that makes you predisposed to being attracted to a guy who's taller than you, has a V-taper, has a capacity for violence, is stronger, smarter, faster. You want to go back over the list of combat attributes for human males? Those also happen to translate almost perfectly, dovetail perfectly with what women find attractive in a guy. It's not freaking rocket science. Stop throwing out these messages that say, oh, don't worry about it. You just be independent. You're a strong, independent woman. Independent of what? Independent of men, of course. No, you are very, almost overly dependent on men, because you would not have the attitude you have right now were you not dependent on a man showing you how to throw a punch, showing you how to use a gun, showing you how to, do Krav Maga or whatever it is that you're doing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that let's you want to challenge the message. Or right at the end of the video, she's like, well, ladies, don't let any guy tell you this. No, ladies, absolutely let a guy tell you that, because that could be the difference between life and death. Absolutely do that. See, that's the fucking problem. You're unteachable. You're so full of yourself and so full of hubris and so full of your own ego that you won't take that kind of advice from a guy. Like, look, here's the deal. Learn it, but don't think that it's going to save you in those situations. Don't mouth off. Don't get yourself into a position where you have a false sense of security to the point where you're hubristically, crowing at the top of the top of the pile there, woman power, when all it takes is a guy who's 200 pounds to push you off that top.
Yep.
We see it. You see it every single day. And I think that's the thing that is really throwing a lot of people off about the red pill right now. Is when guys like that, when I say this in no uncertain terms, and I emphasize this, say, oh, he's emotional. Yeah, I am about this, because I don't want my daughter to be like, I would much rather have my daughter's boyfriend or husband or whoever it is step up and step into that situation and diffuse it
as a father,
instead of initiating it, instead of escalating it, because women will do that, especially if they're with the guy. I think I was what was I talking about? I have an essay. It's not in any book, but it's called "Let's You and Him Fight." And by the way, that's a dynamic, an intersexual dynamic that I've talked about in the past. And what women will do is they've got a big ass boyfriend, and so they feel more confident to pop off to their girlfriends or to pop off to the wait staff or to pop off to whoever at the club kind of thing, knowing that their boyfriend, it's like a test for their boyfriend's like masculinity, to come in and save her drunk ass from getting beat down. Because in the back of her head, as you can be as like uninhibited with alcohol as you want to, still in the root level, that's how binary this is. On the root level, on the lizard brain level, she still goes, well, I've got a big bad boyfriend. Let's see if you can really fight. Hey, my boyfriend can beat you up. Oh yeah? Okay, bring him out here. Right? That challenge, right? You didn't do you're the boyfriend, right? You have no idea what the hell just happened. But now you got to go kick this guy's ass because of your wife or your girlfriend or whoever escalated or initiated an inherently unsafe situation. Yes, you're still dependent. Yes, you go get self-defense. Great, fine, good. Please do. It's better than not. But do not believe this nonsense about a 120-pound little girl knocking out a 250-pound dude with one punch or one kick. Right? And then he's out cold for as long as it takes to do whatever the hell that they're doing in the plot of the movie, right? Get the fuck out of here. That's fantasy. That's what your ego is invested in. Your ego ought to be invested in the fact that there's guys that will just mow right over you. They'll just plow over you, because all it takes is just a little bit of speed and a momentum and a lot of body weight, and you're done. So that's the real inherently unsafe message in all of this. Don't go to those extremes. Don't, or at least, at the very least, be measured and understand that reality in no way conforms to your fantasy of what you think ought to be. They're just average regular guys. Yeah, average guys, the 80%. Yeah, they're overweight. Got more body weight than you. If they're moved to violence, if they're emotional, if they're angry, if they are like, unhinged, for lack of a better term, if they're losing their minds, if they're on whatever drug, if suddenly they stop sedating themselves and they get pissed off for whatever reason, even slightly mentally imbalanced, yeah, I don't care how untrained they are, I don't care how fat they are, they're gonna push right over you. Mm-hmm. So you need to be realistic. Stop thinking in terms of like, oh, like the whole thing about that video is, and this is like the defense side of things. The whole thing about that video is that it's trying to remove the idea that a woman might need a guy to defend her, because women are the vulnerable sex. They always have been, and they always will be. And thanks for that, Sam. I see that. Thank you.
See if I can find it. think this is it.
Nigga, like, fuck is you talking about? Like, nigga,
Hey.
I'm gonna get you fucked up. What you mean? Like, fuck is you talking about? Stay over there. Yeah. She's not speaking for you.
Here it is.
What? Exactly. Fucking racist. You fucking racist. Yeah. You deserve that. You deserve that.
Knocked him right the fuck out.
Call help. Don't have a racist. Let him lie there. He deserves that. He deserves that for all the shit he spoke.
That wasn't it. Where is it? Aha!
What? Don't call me a weirdo. I'm not no weirdo. I ain't no weirdo.
This is it. Okay. So we're going to watch this real quick because I want you guys to see firsthand how quickly things can escalate in a real life situation. And this is, imagine that this dude here on the left is a woman for a minute, okay? We're going to go into Fantasyland. I know, bear with me. Imagine this is a scenario where this guy with his shirt off is facing a woman, okay?
I ain't no weirdo. I'm not facing it. Don't call me a weirdo, alright? Don't call me a weirdo.
Now that guy is Adrian Kazmarek. He stepped in to defuse what could have been an uglier scene. He's a businessman. He runs the company Future Health LA, and he got the guy in what appears to be a sleeper hold. It was lullaby time. There he goes, down, down, down. The passengers gave Kazmarek a standing ovation.
And he's with us now in the studio. Welcome, Adrian Kazmarek.
We're going to watch that again.
Don't call me a weirdo. I'm not no weirdo.
Okay. You can see the guy in the back with the bike. He's ready to defend himself.
I'm not facing it. Don't call me a weirdo, alright? Don't call me a weirdo.
Now that guy is Adrian Kazmarek. He stepped in to defuse what could have been an uglier scene. He's a businessman. He runs the company Future Health LA, and he got the guy in what appears to be a sleeper hold. It was lullaby time. There he goes, down, down, down. The passengers gave Kazmarek a standing ovation.
And he's with us now.
It's 1:30 in the morning at
Here's
this
one.
home in Idaho Falls. Time for lounging, watching a little TV, and checking your phone. You would hope that anyone who comes calling at this hour is family or a friend. Not this time.
Sit down, boys. Right now.
I'm Caspian Shamel,
And I'm Isabel Shamel.
and we survived a home invasion robbery.
We just got home from a date and I was pretty tired and I was just scrolling through my phone, halfway watching the documentary.
We went out and did one of those escape rooms, so we were pretty tuckered out from that, ready to relax.
And then I just hear a loud bang and the door flies open.
I've got a couple of roommates that live downstairs, so having people come in and out at all hours of the night isn't super odd, but I kind of noticed him and I did a double take.
Sit down, boys. Right now.
I just didn't know what was happening at first. I was just in shock.
The intruder orders Caspian to take a seat. Then he turns his attention and his shotgun toward Caspian's fiancée on the couch.
I definitely feared for my life whenever I saw that shotgun pointed at me. I've never been in a situation where a loaded gun was pointed at my face, and it was a shock and kind of my life flashed before my eyes.
Did you think we weren't being done? We had to. I don't know.
Caspian reacts in a flash, grabbing the shotgun barrel.
Instinct kicked in.
Look at this tiny guy.
I wasn't
Look at
letting
this
go of that
fucking
shotgun.
skinny,
At that moment,
tiny guy.
just straight adrenaline, I would say.
Caspian knows his fiancée is still in the room. She rolls off the couch. He barks an order.
I actually yelled for the roommate, and that was all I could muster out.
He's holding onto that gun for dear fucking life.
Caspian is actually being dragged down the stairs, still holding that death grip on the shotgun barrel, as the intruder is now on his own version of an escape room.
And I immediately, as soon as I felt safe enough, ran and called 911 and tried to help the best I could, best I knew how.
It's becoming painfully clear to this home invader.
I told him wrong house, Buster. He
What
was
a
fully
fucking
in agreement.
cornball.
As we hit the stairs, it was a change in power for sure. He slipped as it was icy. I overtook him, got the weapon away from him.
The imminent threat is over, a moment for the couple to relax. Caspian is now armed in self-defense, but hopefully won't need to use his weapons. But 2 minutes later, an angry knock at the door and an unbelievable request.
I opened the door, and he was asking for his shotgun back. And so we told him no, of course, and he tried to force his way back into the house.
The suspect finally fled the scene, still without his shotgun, which was loaded but never fired.
That looks like an AK.
Caspian turned it over to the police as
Oh,
he relived
that must be his
the
gun.
sickening events.
The police were almost arriving. You could see sirens coming up, lights flashing around the block, and he started heading back out the door again, and they intercepted him there by his vehicle. So when the police showed up, then they wanted me to walk through the situation with them, and I hadn't even really fully processed it yet. I just got incredibly adrenaline high. I mean, my whole entire body was shaking. I was sweating. My face was bright red.
He probably vomited at
and
some
so
point.
I puked.
Yep.
It kind of all washes over you. I mean, when you're in the midst of it, you don't feel any of those things happening. But
Yeah, the
as soon
adrenaline
as
rush,
it kind of
you
calms
puke
down
because
like,
you're
holy
excited.
crap, this is really pretty crazy.
I'm just glad that you were there and you were able to take action so quickly.
Look at this though.
And I felt safe before, but now I feel extra safe. I know that he'll protect.
We'll stop it. We'll stop it. We don't need to get too far into this. But you can see, imagine that had been two women in the apartment, okay? Or two women at a flea market or in a Walmart, okay? And the guy walks in with a gun, okay? Walks down the aisle, whatever. Men are designed biologically for combat. This is an undeniable truth. You cannot deny it, okay? Without men doing what men do, without men being taught what men should do, men like that robber, men like the guy we saw in the first video, okay, who's just provoking violence for the sake of violence, okay, or whatever reason, I don't know. There was no, obviously, clip prior to other than the confrontation, right? And then he got put to sleep. And then, you know, the very first one where that racist fucker gets knocked out. Ugh, excuse me, same thing. We are different on many different levels. Specifically, in this particular video, of course, we're different physically, okay? When someone knocks on that door at 2 o'clock in the morning, who answers? You or me, right? Me. At all times. You get under the fucking bed. You go cover the kids with your body. Whatever you do, you do. But what I do is what I do. Okay? This is undeniable. You cannot eradicate men from the equation. We're not different. We're not comparable. Men and women are so different from each other. Okay? My ex, in fact, Sage, okay? She's now dating some dude who's twice her age, whatever. But this dude is easily 6 foot. Okay, now mind you, he's older, a little bit worse for wear than me, I would think. But he's 6 foot something. He's very broad in the shoulders. He's not very yoked. He's not bulky, but he's big, just in stature, right? So from a woman's point of view, you know, coming from me at 5'11", you know, 200 pounds, 250 pounds. Versus 6 foot, probably closer to 280, 265-ish, okay? We're very different physiologically. We have a very different presence in a room, he and I, okay? Just in comparison physically, okay? So you can't deny the physiological differences between men and women, and you can't deny the use of it either, okay? Women have relied and will always rely on men to do the things that men need to do. There's no getting around it. Okay, you can argue all day that we're equals, but we're not. Okay, and as we've seen today, in many different examples, we're not. Okay, you can deny the proof all you want. You can deny the statistics all you want, but the proof's in the pudding. When it's time for shit to hit the fan, when it's time for things to get done, men do the doing. Okay? Not women, men. You put 5 women and 5 men in the same ring and ring that bell, 9 times out of 10, the group of 5 men are going to overpower the women. Will beat them in a fight. Period. End of story. There's no question asked. So, my point in all this is that you have to respect the differences between men and women, and you have to be able to apply it as well, right? In today's feministic viewpoints of men and women, in today's very feministic ideologies, we find a lot of pussy men, right? We find a lot of masculine women. And make no mistake, when push comes to shove, you could take the most beta, skinny, long-haired, simp out of all of them, and you could put him up against some 250-pound fucking She-Hulk, okay? 9 times out of 10, when push comes to shove, we're talking in a real-life situation, that simp, that man is going to win. Sheerly based on body structure, sheerly based on thicker jawlines, thicker bone density, thicker skin density, higher metabolism, okay? When push comes to shove, men are built for combat and women aren't. That's how it goes, okay? So, hopefully you guys learned a little something today. I've got more chores to do, but I want to get this out there. I hear this very frequently nowadays, and after a discussion with a female I was talking to last night, ironically, I felt it was very prevalent to then, talk about something similar today. Because 100, my grandfather's 76, 77, something like that. 100 years ago, the principles and ideals that I uphold as a man were not so different, right? Only in the last 20 years has this rise of feminism become any kind of valuable, any kind of real idea, right? Men and women have never been equal since the dawn of time. Men and women have never been compared since the dawn of time. Okay, we are not even remotely the same.
Someone is endeavoring to contact you.
Okay, so just bear in mind, women have their uses, and I am in no way or shape saying men are better than women. Okay, but there's a lot of things that men are built